Good afternoon. I'm Sheila Brummer with Siouxland Public Media News. Nebraska's outgoing governor has announced his intention to seek appointment to the state's U.S. Senate seat, being vacated by fellow Republican Ben Sasse, who's leaving Congress to become president of the University of Florida. The appointment will be made by Governor-elect Jim Pillen, who received Ricketts' endorsement and more than $100,000 in contributions from the governor toward his campaign. Ricketts could not seek a third term due to term limits. Newly re-elected South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem touted the state's strong economy as she outlined her budget priorities in an address in Pierre this afternoon.
South Dakota's government is small, but it's effective. While we've grown, we've also been fiscally responsible.
Noem says South Dakota has $234 million in reserves. She once again stressed the importance of repealing the state's tax on groceries. Meanwhile, in the Iowa State House, GOP leaders say they plan to reform Iowa's property tax system during the next legislative session that kicks off in January. Sioux City's warming shelter plans to stay open year-round. The Sioux City Journal says the board president says the emergency shelter near 9th and Nebraska will not close at the end of April. The shelter normally operates on a budget of $425,000 a year, but will need at least $800,000 to stay open year-round. The shelter does not accept government funding, so it can assist people normally excluded from other shelters. All three Siouxland states are seeing high or very high levels of influenza. Iowa's Department of Health and Human Services recently announced the first deaths this season, 2 elderly people over the age of 80 from northern Iowa. The current flu season started in early October. Iowa and South Dakota are seeing high levels of the virus, and the CDC categorized Nebraska as experiencing very high levels. The Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services says the current number of cases is much higher this early in the season than any other time in the last 3 years. Health officials urge people to get vaccinated to prevent serious infection. In Nebraska, pharmacies are reporting a shortage of medication to treat the early symptoms of the illness. Unity Point Health in Sioux City says urgent care clinics are experiencing extremely high demand as respiratory illnesses like flu and COVID-19 continue to rise. A spokesperson tells Siouxland Public Media walk-in appointments are available, but people are strongly encouraged to make an online reservation. The fall geese migration is expected to peak this month in Iowa with the potential to cause further infections of domestic flocks by a highly pathogenic and destructive avian influenza. Agricultural officials are reporting new outbreaks in Cherokee and Sac counties. And last week, a Buena Vista County commercial turkey facility with about 40,000 birds was impacted. The Iowa Capital Dispatch reports the virus infected 19 Iowa flocks from March to May this year and led to the deaths of about 13.4 million birds. Class action lawsuit says the federal government has illegally broken a promise to pay out the debts of a group of black farmers. The group hopes to put the pressure on officials to restore funding that was dropped after a group of white farmers filed legal challenges. The U.S. Department of Education says an Iowa school district failed to protect a black student from pervasive racial harassment and now must take steps to help the student. The department announced it has resolved a complaint filed against the Ottumwa School District after investigating allegations of harassment from 2020 through 2022 against a middle school student. The investigation found the harassment amounted to a racial hostile environment that violated the student's federal rights. The statement says the student endured repeated racial slurs and other harassment. District officials were told of the problem but did not take effective action. And a Morningside University professor is collecting stories of Latinos in Sioux City. Spanish professor Stacy Alex wanted to fill the gap in archival documentation of Latinos in the Midwest. So 2 years ago, she started recording the experiences of Latino students, business owners, and public figures in Northwest Iowa. Now she hopes local schools can use the archive as a language learning resource.
The students understand that their goal is not just this abstract idea of using language, but that we're learning language to really work with our communities and learn from our communities. And that's something that I really want students to understand, that we have a lot to learn from our Latinx communities.
Perla Alarcon-Floyd donated her story to the archive. She says she wants others in the community to feel less alone.
We have a very diverse population that many times don't see themselves reflected anywhere. And so having their voices somehow echoed or finding someone that they can connect with becomes important.
Morningside University will continue to gather stories with the help of students in the upcoming semesters and potentially build a curriculum that centers around community experiences. And the NAIA Women's Volleyball National Championship will be decided tonight at the Tyson Event Center in Sioux City. It's the first time the Corbin Warriors of Oregon and the Jamestown Jimmies of North Dakota have played for a national title. The first serve tonight starts at 7. For Siouxland Public Media News, I'm Sheila Brummer.